Three black men broke out of jail. What they proved after will leave you speechless. Three black men broke out of a maximum security prison under the cover of darkness. The nation saw them as dangerous fugitives, until the truth came out. What they revealed after their escape flipped the justice system on its head, and left millions in shock. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because this story will change how you see freedom, justice, and what it truly means to be innocent. It was 2:13 a.m. when the alarm blared through the halls of Stone Ridge Correctional Facility. A guard stumbled out of the break room, coffee in hand, staring in disbelief at the blinking red lights on the control board. 3 inmates had disappeared. All the surveillance cameras facing the west wall had been disabled. A section of the outer fence had been cleanly sliced. Dogs were released. Sirens wailed. And within minutes, police cars from 4 counties were tearing down dirt roads, racing to catch the fugitives. The names of the escapees flashed across national news by sunrise. Tyrone Gaines, 31, sentenced to 15 years for armed robbery. Jamal Reed, 28, sentenced to 20 years for assault with intent. Deshaun Miller, 34, life sentence for a fatal shooting in Atlanta. To the public, they were just more criminals who'd found a way to slip through the cracks. Dangerous. Desperate. Armed. But no one, not even the seasoned detectives, could explain how they'd escaped without a single tool, without outside help, and with such eerie precision. And even more strange, they hadn't taken a vehicle. They were running on foot. But where? And why? As the hours turned to days, the manhunt intensified. The story dominated headlines. Newscasters painted the trio as cold-blooded convicts who might hurt innocent people to stay free. A $100,000 reward was offered. But what the cameras didn't show was what the escapees left behind. In the cell they had shared for nearly a year, taped behind a loose brick in the wall, guards found a stack of handwritten letters. Addressed to a lawyer named Jacqueline Monroe, the notes were detailed, filled with names, dates, and trial irregularities. One note read, "We ain't running because we guilty. We running because no one listened. They never wanted the truth. But we're gonna show it to them anyway, even if it kills us." Across the nation, public opinion began to split. Some saw the men as just 3 more cons trying to play the system. But others began asking hard questions. Why did their cases all rely on the same corrupt detective? Why were 2 of them convicted without a single piece of physical evidence? And why had all their appeals been mysteriously denied? Then came the twist no one expected. On day 4 of the escape, the 3 men showed up, unarmed and voluntarily, on the front steps of Channel 11 News in Atlanta. Wearing torn prison jumpsuits, covered in mud, they raised their hands as cameras rolled. "We broke out not to run from the law," Tyrone said, his voice trembling. "We broke out to show you how the law broke us." The escape alone would have earned them decades more behind bars. But what they carried in a single duffel bag changed everything. Inside were copies of altered police reports, proof of fabricated witness testimonies, a hidden voice recording between Detective Brian Kessler and a known informant, discussing pinning the charges to close old cases. They also had video testimony, recorded by a former public defender, admitting she was pressured into ignoring exculpatory evidence to avoid political fallout. When this footage aired on the evening news, it sparked a firestorm across the country. Thousands of people protested outside the courthouse. Civil rights groups demanded a federal investigation. Even major celebrities began tweeting with a hashtag #FreeThe3. Within a week, the district attorney's office was forced to reopen the cases. And for the first time in Georgia state history, a prison break led to a full judicial review. All 3 convictions were declared compromised. And just like that, the men the world once hunted became symbols of survival. Once declared innocent, Tyrone, Jamal, and Deshaun were not immediately freed. In fact, they were still being held for their prison escape. But now, public opinion had shifted entirely. Donations flooded in. Top-tier attorneys offered to defend them pro bono. And powerful figures, from activists to former judges, spoke in their defense. One viral moment sealed their fate. During a live courtroom hearing, Tyrone turned to the judge and said, "Your Honor, we didn't escape to hurt anyone. We escaped to be heard. The system locked us up, but we refused to let it lock up the truth." Gasps filled the courtroom. Even the judge was visibly moved. By the end of that week, all 3 were released, not only exonerated of their original charges, but also granted immunity from prosecution for the escape due to extraordinary circumstances of wrongful imprisonment. And then came the surprise: they didn't sue. Instead, they started the Truth and Freedom Project, a non-profit aimed at helping wrongly convicted prisoners gather evidence, get media attention, and access legal help. Their first client: a teenager from Louisiana sentenced to 30 years based on a coerced confession. Their goal: to make sure no one would have to break out of prison just to prove they never belonged there. The case of the three, as they came to be known, forced America to face some painful truths. News anchors, once quick to label them dangerous escapees, now opened segments with public apologies. Detective Brian Kessler was indicted on 14 counts of misconduct, tampering with evidence, and obstruction of justice. He now faces life in prison. The state issued a public apology, along with a settlement offer of $5 million to each man, which they all donated entirely to their nonprofit. In an emotional interview 1 year later, Deshawn said, "We lost years. We lost time with our families. We lost everything. But we found something too: our voice." A Netflix docuseries is now in production. High school students write essays about them. Civil rights leaders compare their courage to that of the Freedom Riders. And when Jamal was asked if he regrets the escape, he simply said, "Sometimes you have to break out, just to break through." 3 black men who were labeled criminals became warriors for justice. They didn't just escape prison, they escaped silence. If this story moved you, share it. Someone out there might still be waiting to be heard. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful true stories that shake the system and your heart.